Open our eyes, Lord. We want to see Jesus, to reach out and touch Him and say that we love Him. Open our ears, Lord, and help us to listen. Open our eyes, Lord. We want to see Jesus. Open our eyes, Lord. We want to see Jesus, to reach out and touch Him and say that we love Him. Open our ears, Lord, and help us to listen. Open our eyes, Lord. We want to see Jesus.
This is a story we have in John chapter 9. It's about a man who was born blind. The whole reading is about seeing. It starts with physical seeing, but it ends up with spiritual seeing. Now, this man who was born blind isn't even given a name. He's just a beggar who would be sitting by the temple gate, hoping people would give him something as they walked past. And the chapter starts off, as he went past, that's Jesus, as he went past, he saw this man. Now, I don't think that just means that he was in Jesus' line of view. I think the saw means he actually noted him and noted that he was someone who needed help. Now, for the disciples, it seemed like they were more interested in a theological question, like, well, whose sin caused this? Was it the parents, or was it the baby himself, or the man himself? Makes you wonder what a baby could get up to in the womb, that he would be sinning enough to be born blind. But that was a belief at the time, that it was a person's sin that caused them suffering. You only have to read the book of Job and listen to Job's friends, and that's their whole sort of outlook. Just Job, just confess your sin and then God will listen to you. Jesus completely debunks that notion. Now, the way it reads in the story of John, it sounds a little bit like Jesus is saying, this man was born blind so that God's power and majesty could be shown. Well, that sounds a little bit cruel. But more, I think what he's saying is, don't ask theological questions about why he's born blind. Let's see this as an opportunity to show the awesome power of God. This wasn't just a healing that happened, it was actually a creation. Now, if we go back to the story of creation in Genesis 2, we read this: streams came up from the earth and watered the surface of the ground. Then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils, and the man became a living being. That's creation. Damp earth formed into a man and breathed on by the breath of God. In this story, Jesus takes some soil and he dampens it. And he dampens it with his own spit, the very spit of God, if you like, and put it on his eyes and told him to go and wash them. It's creation of sight where there was none. Now, the story involves other groups of people. There are the locals, and they're a bit puzzled. Isn't this the man, the blind beggar that used to be begging? And others are saying, well, it certainly looks like him, but no, it can't possibly be. It must be someone else who just looks alike. And the man's saying, but I am he. And then they start questioning, well, how did this happen? And who is this guy? Where is he? And so on. They really are puzzled, and they're finding it very hard to believe. They want explanations. They want proof. Then we hear about the Pharisees. Now, it was right for the Pharisees to investigate a miracle or a healing. What happened to this man? They find out all the facts. But they have a huge blockage because this happened on the Sabbath. And the laws said you don't work on the Sabbath, and they saw healing as work. Therefore, all they're seeing is that Jesus had been very disobedient. He'd sinned into the parents. Well, is this your son? And was he born blind? And they say, yes, this is our son, and he was born blind, but we don't know how he can now see. And you're going to have to ask him because he's old enough to answer for himself. In other words, we're not going to get involved in this controversy. We're not going to make waves. We're afraid of the power structure. Then the man comes into conflict with the Pharisees. And he's saying, look, I think he must be a prophet because I was born blind. Now I can see, and this has never, ever happened before. So he must be from God. And the Pharisees' reaction to that was, well, you were sinful from your birth, so how dare you lecture us? Then Jesus meets the man again. And this man then believes that Jesus is the Messiah. In fact, it says he worshipped him. The man who'd been born physically blind could now physically see, but it led him to actually spiritually see that Jesus was God. And then the clash between the Pharisees and Jesus. Now in Luke chapter 4, we have Jesus preaching in the synagogue, and he chose a passage from Isaiah about what he'd come to do. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind and set the oppressed free. Okay, he did heal a few blind people, but Jesus was far more important with opening people's spiritual eyes so they could see the things of God. The Pharisees were claiming to have spiritual sight, and yet they couldn't see God when he was right in front of them. The question is, where are we in this story? Are we like the locals? Are we sort of puzzled? You've seen pretty amazing things happen. We want to know how they've happened. We'd like some proof. It's all very puzzling. Are we the parents? Well, we know what's happened, but we don't want to get involved in any of this. We don't want any controversy. We just want to keep the peace. Are we the Pharisees? We can't see past the way we think that things should be, so we fail to see the move of God. 2 weeks ago we were looking at the story of Nicodemus, and Jesus showed Nicodemus that unless he had the Spirit of God within him, that he couldn't see the things of God. And Paul says very much the same thing in 1 Corinthians 1:14. The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit, but considers them foolishness and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. We know the story of John Newton, who wrote Amazing Grace. He was nurtured by a Christian mother and she taught him the Bible, but she died when he was 7. And so he followed in his father's footsteps and went to sea and just went on a completely different way of life. But his mother had laid the foundations. And when he was caught in a terrible storm and in danger of his life, he prayed. And the storm abated. And I guess that got him thinking. He started to read his Bible again. And after a while, he gave his life to Jesus. And he wrote this famous hymn, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Having given his life to Jesus, he now had the Spirit, and that enabled him to see for himself the things that his mother had been teaching him. Isaiah 43, the prophet was giving God's word to the people in exile, and he was saying to them, yes, I will restore you. And he says, yeah, I am the God who led you through the Red Sea. I'm the God who drowned the whole Egyptian army. But he says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Are our spiritual eyes open that we can see what God has in store, even though it may not fit with how we think it should be? It might be something very different. But God says, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? It's only prayerful listening to God that will help us to see what He has for us.